Hey, how's it going, everyone? Don't Starve has a ton of different characters, each one with their own personality and traits. Each character behaves differently, and in today's video, I'll be ranking how well each character would do if they actually owned a copy of Don't Starve and tried playing it for themselves. This video is completely unscripted, and so it's one of the first times I'm actually doing this, and also it just, overall makes making a video much easier. So if this does well, I'll make more of it, and yeah. Anyways, starting off, let's do the very first character of this game. We have Wilson. So Wilson is a scientist, and because of that, I feel like he's the kind of person to watch a bunch of tutorials, and I feel like he'd want the valuable information, he'd want to know how to start off playing the game, and I feel like if he did end up playing, he'd definitely be one of the sweatier players. That being said, I don't think he'd fully grasp how the tutorials are. Either that, or he'd try to do what was said in the tutorial, but kind of fail at it. I'm not saying that he'd be a bad player. He wouldn't be average either, since I feel like he's the kind of person that would be able to take in information pretty well, so personally, I think I'm gonna go with good. I feel like Wilson would be a good player. Not a complete sweat, like he'd try sweaty strategies, but I don't think he'd be able to follow through with them. And overall, he's just a little bit incompetent for a scientist. Definitely a little bit smarter than most people on this list, but, not a complete sweat. Alright, next up, we have Willow, Pyromaniac. Willow is portrayed as very, I get bored pretty easily, if I don't like something, I will tell you. And I feel like if she was to play Don't Starve, she'd call most things stupid. She also kind of seems like the kind of person who would be incompetent at the game, making, a lot of stupid decisions because of, how she is in game. So, for example, let's just search up Willow quotes. Yeah, look here, she's pretty impatient. Well, I mean, she does say patience right there, but, it's stupid, hurry up. I feel like she get frustrated pretty easily, and overall, she might just quit playing the game after a while. I wouldn't say she would be a terrible player, per se, but I feel like she'd be pretty bad. So, she's going into the bad tier. Next up, we have Wolfgang, the boss shredder himself. So, Wolfgang is actually not... Is Wolfgang smart? ESD. Okay, yeah, people describe Wolfgang as pretty, simple-brained, if that makes sense. I feel like if you handed a big Russian strongman a phone with Don't Starve on it, might not do the best. He'd play for a little while, probably get bored, and then just move on to something else. I wouldn't say he's a bad player. I mean, I don't know. I can't see Wolfgang playing this game, very seriously or for very long. And I feel like he's, the kind of person... I think he's the kind of person where if you hand him the phone, he'll play for the amusement of, oh, they're giving me a phone, I should probably play this game. But I don't think they'd do anything much other than that. And they'd probably die. So, Wolfgang's going into the bad tier, definitely. Next up, we have Wendy. Oh, depression incarnate. Wendy is just a really depressed kid. I can't tell how well they'd play Don't Starve, considering, other than her depression, there's not many other personality traits. She hates plants. But I feel like if she were to play, she wouldn't be too bad. I don't know what it is, but I feel like if Wendy was to pick up a phone and start playing, she'd probably get, pretty enticed by the game, want to start playing more. They wouldn't be, as good as Wilson, but they definitely have, a base setup, something like that. They wouldn't get impatient or anything. They'd just play the game like a regular, not sweaty, not bad player. So, I'm gonna put Wendy in average. Not too good, not too bad. Which makes sense, considering she's 8 years old. Next up, we have WX. Yeah, I'm just gonna put that straight into terrible tier. The reason why is I feel like, given the choice, if WX had a copy of Don't Starve, they probably would not care enough to play it. Like, they wouldn't even open the game. They'd pick up the phone, be like, stupid meatling gave me a game, I'm not playing this game. And just not want to play. Either that, or if they did play, they'd get frustrated by, like, the rudimentary controls or whatever, you know, since they're a literal robot themselves. So, personally, I don't think Wix would be very good. Although, if they had, like, a Don't Starve module, they'd immediately go into the sweat tier. Yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of torn between it, but overall, I'm gonna put it in terrible tier. I actually don't know who's next in the character selection roster, so we're just gonna go to Wickerbottom. Now, Wickerbottom and Wolfgang are the same kind of, like you could give them the game and they'd play for your amusement kind of thing. I don't think she'd be very good at the game at all. As most old people are, no offense. I mean, she's really smart, but she's more book smart, and I don't think she'd be very good at playing video games. So, 2 in a row, I think she's going into terrible tier here. I think Woody's next. Okay, so Woody is a Canadian lumberjack. Not much to go off of, but I do feel like if they picked up the game, they'd probably enjoy it. Okay, so here's the thing. Woody's just an average guy. And, like, I could imagine him chopping down trees for an entire day, probably getting tired. You know, pull out some of that Don't Starve mobile, take some steam off. I'm not sure. He'd probably either be, like, top of average. Oh, sorry. He'd either be top of bad tier or, like, bottom average. Or I'm leaning more towards average tier, purely because I feel like he wouldn't give up on the game instantly. He would, like, actually give it a try, actually try playing the game, get into it and stuff, so I think we're gonna put him bottom of average tier. Alright, Wes. Wes is a mime, in-game completely useless, but if you gave them a copy of Don't Starve, just like, you know, based off of the trailers, I feel like Wes would enjoy it. Wes would probably get pretty into Don't Starve. Like, he's just a goofy little, you know, he's just a goofy mime. And just a normal, everyday dude, overall. So, I feel like he'd get into Don't Starve, and then probably really, really get into it. Not, like, the level of Wilson, but he'd probably still get into it. So I'm gonna put Wes in good tier. I feel like he'd be more of a team player. If he played Don't Starve, he'd definitely be playing Don't Starve together. Team player, doesn't talk too much, but obviously wants to help everyone else progress. So, yeah, I'm gonna put him in good. So next up, we have Maxwell. So, Maxwell is pretty stuck up. Like, he thinks he's the best at everything. I mean, purely because of that, I'd put him in the sweat tier. I mean, come on, look, he has the gaming chair right there in his portrait. Complete sweat. Actually, you know what, yeah. I was considering putting him in, like, top of good tier, but, dude, this guy probably has, like, the gamer posture. Or something. Either that or he doesn't care enough. I mean, he probably wouldn't care, but if Wilson's good, he'd want to be better than Wilson, so he's definitely gonna sweat in this game as much as possible. Like, in a Don't Starve Together team, complete, like, lone wolf kind of guy, doesn't need help from any of the others, just, like, shows up once every 10 days. You know, that kind of deal. So, we're gonna put Maxwell in the sweat tier. I'm actually not sure who comes next. I think it's Weber. So, Weber, regular kid, half spider, half human. Now, because of that, he gets kind of an unfair advantage. I feel like the kid in Weber would be the one playing the game, and the spider part of Weber would be giving advice. Like, oh, don't eat that because it's stale. Or, you know, maybe save your pickaxe durability. Something like that. I feel like the two of them would work together, they'd have a pretty good dynamic. And overall, I feel like Weber themselves would have a bunch of fun playing this game, so definitely, I am putting Weber into the good tier, right above Wes. Because, you know. Actually, this doesn't really have any order to it, so it doesn't matter. Next up, we have Wigfrid. Wigfrid, in-game and in real life, loves fighting, and she gets very engrossed in her role. So if Wigfrid was to play Don't Starve, they would 100% take the role like way too seriously. I feel like they'd kind of try to be their character, which in a game like this is not a bad thing. I feel like that would, you know, actually help you. They'd probably be good. I wouldn't say they're a complete sweat, because, you know, it's Wigfrid, but I would definitely say good. Better than Wes, at least. Oh crap, I do not know the character order. Let's just go with Wagstaff. Now, Wagstaff, the scientist, yeah, he's a pretty old guy. I don't think he'd like Don't Starve very much, nor be very good at it. Although, that being said, I don't think Wagstaff would be terrible. Like, I genuinely think Wagstaff's, like, just knowledge in general would get him past the first day or so. Not dying immediately. Like, they'd make a fire and genuinely probably know the controls. I mean, he's tampered with stuff like this before. Wickerbottom reads books, he makes inventions and stuff, so I don't know, probably not terrible. He'd care more than Wix to play the game, and he has more experience with electronics to actually know how to play the game. So he's bad, but he's not as terrible as these two. Next up, we have Wani, very chill surfer. I feel like, you know, pretty self-explanatory. They'd just be average. You know, they wouldn't be too bad at the game. They'd know how to play. They'd probably have it on their phone or something. Not like a PC gamer or anything like that, just a casual mobile player. So, yeah. No, don't really have any, like, you know, reasons for this. It's just like how they act in-game. And that's pretty much it. So, yeah. Alright, next up we have Walter. Okay, so Walter, I don't know. He's a, like, Walter would obviously be a team player in Don't Starve Together if they played. But I don't think they'd be the best team player. Like, kind of reminds me of, like, Squeaker Kids on the mic, if that makes sense. I'm not too sure, though. I feel like he'd try. He'd definitely try. He just wouldn't be that good. Probably, like, top of bad tier, like a bit below average. Obviously he's still a kid, would probably make some stupid mistakes, but since he's a little bit more, you know, happy-go-lucky than Wendy, I feel like Wendy, even though she's still a kid, she'd definitely play things safe and try not to move too much. But I feel like Walter would go out, he'd explore a lot, which I guess isn't a bad thing. That's a lot more resources, but I feel like he'd also approach a lot of monsters, which is a bad idea. Wendy would just stay away from everything. So that's why he's on the top of bad tier. Next up, we have Wanda. Wanda's an interesting case because she's not actually old. Like, actually, okay. She's old in the sense that her age is like hundreds of years old, but she can also become younger. In any case, I still don't think she'd care about this game even the slightest bit. Since she has infinite time to herself, I feel like if she got into this game, she'd be a complete sweat. If she actually enjoyed this game, complete sweat, because unlike all these other characters, she could dedicate ages to this game. Actual years. You know what? No, we're putting her in the sweat tier. I mean, like, I could definitely see Wanda enjoying this game. She might see it as a waste of time, but if she did enjoy it, she would be a complete sweat. I guess that's based off of possibility, which I haven't done for most of these other characters. I guess we'll put them in like top of good tier, or bottom of sweat tier, but kind of running low of the people in the sweat tier, so... we'll come back to this one. We'll come back to this one. Kind of like rearrange it by the end. Next up, we have Warley. Yeah, kind of the same Wolfgang situation here, but I'm not too sure. Warley would definitely have a field day with all the different ingredients in this game, just kind of turn it into a cooking simulator of sorts. So I feel like he'd be good for food. Definitely survive a little bit longer than the other survivors. You know, I'm gonna put him in average tier. Feel like he'd pick some food, definitely make a couple tools, make a campfire and whatnot. Yeah, he's a pretty patient guy. I think we're gonna just keep him in the average tier. I don't care, actually. You know what? Placements don't matter. Wheeler. Okay, I actually don't know how Wheeler or Wilba behave, so I'm just gonna go search that up now. Okay, so Wheeler is an explorer. I guess that's points in her favor. You definitely want to explore in this game. And I feel like, unlike Walter, if she was to explore, she'd definitely be able to tell what's good from what's bad. So she's kind of like Wendy and Walter combined, both of their strong suits. I think Wheeler's gonna go in the good tier. She'd be good enough to explore the world, you know, collect as many resources as she possibly can. But she wouldn't confront or approach anything she knew was dangerous, which is a good thing to have. I feel like if she played, definitely just a good player overall. Wilba. Okay, what does Wilba do? Hold on. Princess of the Pig Kingdom. Okay, honestly, okay, that doesn't really help me, because I don't know how the Pig Kingdom is like. But judging by the fact that she's a princess and her age, she probably wouldn't be very good at Don't Starve. Like, if you handed Don't Starve to a little kid, they'd probably end up dying in the first few days. In fact, I'm just gonna put them in terrible tier. Look, I don't want to judge based off of looks and how she acts, but I feel like if she died, she'd get mad, turn into Werebeaver Wilba, and just beat the crap out of the iPad. In other words, she's an iPad kid that doesn't really know how to play with the iPad, so she's just going into terrible tier. Oh, next up we have Wilbur. Is that Wilba? Her name is Wilba, yeah. Next up we have Wilbur, a literal monkey. I'm sorry, that's just going straight into terrible tier. I don't think that Wilbur, let's say, has the mental capacity to play this game. Alright, next up we have Nona, the handy woman. Okay, this one I can see being a complete sweat, but at the same time I don't think she'd get that into it. Like, Nona definitely has the skills. She's a handy woman, she'd know exactly what to do. You know, get some twigs, get some flint, make an axe, you know, chop down trees, make, you know, all these buildings and stuff. But would she be a sweat? I don't think she would be. I feel like she'd just be a good player overall. Definitely survive, you know, pretty deep into winter, maybe kill deer clops, but not much more than that. Maybe, I feel like spring's pretty easy. Definitely suffer through summer. I feel like these two would realistically go through summer pretty easily, but everyone else here definitely dying to it. Maybe Wilson, but I'm not sure. I mean, Wilson's the tutorial watcher of the group. Whatever. She's just going into the good tier. Alright, Woodlegs, the pirate. I don't know how this guy acts. Hold on. Oh, he hates staying too long on land. Okay, based purely on how this guy just hates being on land, maybe he'd play the game on a boat, but I don't think so. Even if he did play the game, I don't think Woodlegs would be good enough to do much. I mean, he's a pirate. What's he gonna realistically do in this game? I don't think he'd be very good at it. Yeah, I think so. I think Woodlegs would definitely be, like, terrible at this game, so I'm just gonna put him in terrible tier. Sorry, Woodlegs. Next up, we have Wormwood. Yeah, there's no way Wormwood's figuring out how a phone behaves, or a PC, or literally anything. Straight into terrible tier. I'm so sorry, Wormwood. Warthogs. I actually don't know. Warthogs can hop between dimensions. They've been to Terraria. But would that make them a sweat? I am not sure. They definitely could have the capacity to become a sweat, but I don't know. I feel like they'd just be a really good player. And lastly, we have Wart. Now, okay, Wart is a merm, but she's a really smart merm. I mean, she can read Wickerbottom's books. Not to mention, she's a kid. I mean, come on. Come on. Like, kids love video games. And Don't Starve, okay, Don't Starve's hard, but I feel like Wart has the mental capacity to actually sweat at this game. She's a pretty big bookworm. I feel like if she watched tutorials or got into this game, hell, even just got her hands on like a Don't Starve guide, she would read through all of it in like 5 minutes and just become the ultimate god at this game. And she'd definitely be more interested in it than Wanda, so I think she goes above her. Not that, you know, the placement matters. Granted, she's a merm, so she'd probably have to play on PC, but again, that makes her just even sweatier. So yeah, Wart's going into the sweat tier. And I have no idea if this tier list is good. So yeah, I think that's it for this list. Apologies if the takes in this video were like bad. I mean, feel free to correct me in the comment section below. If you think Willow is a complete god at this game, let me know. Because I just kind of went off of a hunch on basically this entire list. So we're gonna save this. Definitely just, oh, come on. Just, can I download? Thank you. There we go. I'm just gonna show that on screen right now. Complete full list. So yeah, I think that is it. Once again, if you have any disagreements on this list, please make sure to comment down below. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Kind of a bad outro. Oops. It's not scripted. What do you expect? Anyways, with that being said, yeah. Thanks for watching again. Yeah. Okay. Bye. I don't know.